next step of why we are playing with some beautiful inherited trauma work in the new NAP. And there's going to be new NAP training soon, which I'm very excited about as we are working ancestral trauma pieces in. And it is mind-blowing. But the next piece of this is why you can inherit trauma. I've talked about this in Chinese medicine for, whatever, a couple thousand years. And Chinese medicine says you can inherit anything, including a sense of humor, including an eye color, including trauma. And science used to say, that's so cute that you think that. No. And in the last 10, 15, 20 years, science is going, holy flippin' crap. You can. Epigenetics, that's this really fascinating field where they are trying to figure out what switches flip and why they flip. There's a video before this, which I think we can link to make sure that you can have access to this second video in this series, which tells you about epigenetics and why it happens. Why then might we inherit trauma? Well, if we are driven as mammals to recreate a trauma over and over again until we learn what we need to learn, until we can stay safe and survive, no matter when that happens, if that happens next, if we can avoid it, learning how to avoid it. If we as mammals are interrupted in that process, are not well resourced enough to entirely process it, then those epigenetic switches flip. Our body is saying, you've got to be afraid of tigers. You must learn to stay away from snakes or blonde-haired people, whatever the messaging is. And then the next generation inherits that flipped switch. And what they're finding is that it can be quite specific what people inherit. The reason for that is we need a way, other than just oral tradition, to pass on to the next generation what is safe and what is not safe. This is not just humans, this is mammals. We all do this. When you look at some of the studies, there's this fascinating study on mice where they, if the mice ever rise up against us, totally understand. Don't want them to, totally understand. They did this study with mice where they raised them in an all-white room, all-white cage, all-white everything, and then they put them in another habitat, and in that habitat, everything was all white with a red button and a green button. The green button, lo and behold, gave them food or water, something like that. The red one gave them a shock. Surprise, they learned to stay away from the red one. They then took those same mice, put them back in their all-white habitat, let them happily live out the rest of their little mouse lives. And they had mouse babies, and those little mice had babies. And those mice, when put back into the new habitat with the red and the green button, would not go near the red button. Something in them had switched on an epigenetic level. They learned, they inherited the trauma that said, red buttons are dangerous and will hurt you. This is a really useful survival tactic. We get to applaud this. We also can suffer from it when we don't know how to go back and track what's going on and change that. But we're not going to demonize our own capacity to survive any more than we're going to demonize anything else's capacity to survive. So if there is something that is happening to you that you don't know why, that you have an aversion to, that you have an automatic fear of, there's something that has switched that we can go back in with NAP, with techniques like this, and flip that switch again, change that imprint, and we can work on it with the new NAP that's coming. We can work on it no matter when it started. That's the coolest thing that I've been studying lately. It's fascinating. It's amazing what changes when you can go back and track that and not blame yourself for having something that you don't understand.